There's this known fact that I think it was an article that was written by one of these major magazines. It could have been or newsletter outlets. It could have been New York Times or something like that. And they talk about how I think they did like some form of study where it shows that if a person doesn't periodically change about $1 million over the course of their career, in other words, it's almost not within your best interest to stay at a single organization over a long period of time. And I was thinking about that. I'm like, okay, virtually everyone knows this. Like everyone who's been in the job market or been in the corporate world for long enough, they're aware of this. And if that's true, like if this is how you basically get paid more and whatever else, why don't organizations actually work towards making it less worth a person's while to actually change organizations? Like, why don't they actually work towards keeping more and more of their people? I mean, if you know that every 2 to 3 years, because that's about the average, in IT, it's closer to about 18 months. Like if you're not changing jobs around 18 to 24 months, you're quickly falling behind the rest of the market. And the question that I've been asking myself has been around, okay, everyone knows this, not just you, the person that's in the job market. Um, Even the organizations that you're a part of, surely someone in there must be aware of these studies and these articles that have been written. And why is there not more work actually being done towards ensuring that people want to stay in the organization, ensuring that people are properly compensated so that they actually want to remain in the organization itself? Because one of the things that I've been grappling with is this idea that if a prospective employer just looks at your CV, interviews you, or perhaps interviews you lots of times, and they're willing to offer you X amount or X% above what you're making, let's just even use these industry averages of like 15 to 20%. Even if they're willing to offer you that, most organizations aren't actually looking to offer you that on a year-on-year increase. To me, that doesn't make sense. Why is it that someone who basically isn't aware of the actual ability that you have, all they have is your CV to work off from, and they are willing to pay more to get you to join their organization versus the organization that you're a part of is willing to pay to keep you there? Like, why is there that disparity? Because for me, it makes more sense to want to keep someone who's a part of your organization because one, they understand the business. Two, they've been with you long enough. You've gotten a gauge of their abilities and whatever else. And chances are they would be able to actually help move your organization forward. They would be the ones that you would possibly be looking to help you make those strategic decisions and be willing to be a part of the future of your organization. But if you go and you disincentivize that notion of staying in your organization for a long period of time, then a person is less inclined to actually do that. Now, companies can argue and say, yeah, but like people should want to stay in our organization and whatever else. Oh, blah blah. My my thinking about this is in my study of human nature, I've come to one conclusion. Human beings will do what they believe is best or is within their best interest to do. And once you actually start looking at, okay, why is it within the person's best interest to stay within your organization as opposed to moving elsewhere, then you arrive at more meaningful answers. But if you as an organization aren't thinking about that, like sometimes I think as an organization or as organizations, they basically need to put themselves in the shoes of the people that they're trying to keep and think about why would someone want to stay here? What is our compelling case? I mean, there's a lot of talk now on places like LinkedIn and blog posts around the employee value proposition. Like, what is it that companies are doing to basically make their organizations a compelling workplace or an employer of choice, which is what they call it now? Like, why would they want to be the employer of choice, or rather, how can they become the employer of choice for more and more talented people? And I think not enough companies are thinking deeply enough about that. The idea that you want to be the place that everyone actually wants to work at. And when you look at I think every year they have like these top 10 or top 100 or whatever else, places to work for. I can only speak from a data science standpoint. Those organizations are also the top paying. So like it's not just a thing of, oh yeah, it's a great culture and whatever else, people want to work for us. No, like they really look after their people. Like they pay their people extremely well. Part of that is that, like part of why people want to work for these organizations is because of the fact that you'll have one less thing to worry about. You won't have to worry about whether you're going to make it through the month and all of these other things. You'll be able to actually focus on the work, and if organizations aren't going to actually focus on that, I think it's one of the things I've thought about a lot is that if you don't increase your value proposition, you're going to lose good people. And the problem with good people is it's very easy for someone else to also see that they are good. And that means it's also easy for someone else to want to have them on their team, which means the people that end up staying in your organization are people who generally aren't that good and no one else essentially wants them. So they're kind of stuck in your organization. And once you don't increase, once you become less and less appealing to people who are good at what they do, you end up with people who aren't that good at what they do, which means it decreases your competitive advantage because whether you've got a good product, a good service, all of these other things, you still need a proper team to actually execute on the plans, to execute on the services that you're providing. But if you're becoming less and less a compelling place for people that are actually good, you end up trying to compete with A player against A players using D and E type players. And you can't possibly compete with those people because these people are generally good. And not only do they know they are good, they're constantly trying to actually get better. And so it's one of the things that I've been really trying to think about is like, why is it that that's generally like this information is freely available? Like everyone knows this, but you're not seeing enough, or rather, at least I'm not seeing enough companies actually take that seriously and say, okay, we need to do something about the fact that we are losing good people. And this is what I think we could do. I've been talking to some friends from different industries, and you're seeing the same thing. Like, I've got a friend who's also working even in the public sector, and it's like you see the same thing where you've got doctors leaving the public sector by their droves, not because they don't want to help people and whatever. It's like most of them actually aren't really interested in studying their own practices, but the conditions that they have to work in are so bad that they are forced, like almost like their hand is actually forced. And I even have a friend who'd recently left an organization and whatever else, joined another one. And that was their reasoning too. Is like, I can't work with these type of increases. Like I really, they were at a place where he and the wife were considering, starting a family and whatever. So it's like, I've been with this organization 3, 4 years, and it's just like 3%, 5% increases and whatever, and it felt unfair. And I just dipped my hand into the job market. I'm like, okay, let's see what else is out there. And all of a sudden, I'm being offered double, or more than double what I was currently making. It was like, in as much as I didn't want to move organizations, I couldn't turn that down because of what um, him and the wife were planning for. And then it's only after that that the organization's like, no, we'll match that and whatever. So like, well, it's a bit too late. I mean, why didn't you guys do that whilst I was still here? And I think that remains a sore point of contention. The idea that more and more people, and you see this with some of my posts on LinkedIn, a lot of people feel, I don't want to use the word betrayed, but there's a sense of betrayal between themselves and the organizations they work for. It's like there's an inherent lack of trust, and so they will jump ship at literally not even the highest bidder. Anyone who's bidding higher than what they're making right now, most people will actually leave the organizations they're with currently. And a lot of that is as a result of they feel undervalued. They feel like they're not valued enough in proportion to the type of work and the type of effort they actually put into the work they do for the organization. And I think if more organizations don't really take that seriously, because what I've started to see is that, especially in South Africa, you've got more and more multinationals actually coming in. And these are some of the companies that generally make your top 10, top 20 places to work for. And people that are good, people that are really good at what they do, they are flying to the organizations in their droves because these are companies that know how to look after their people. They've got such a compelling employee proposition. And as soon as now you mention, okay, such and such a company's offering this, sometimes you find companies trying to make counter offers and whatever else. But by then it's generally too late because this person has grown so frustrated that they're not even willing to listen to any counter offers. So if this video was really compelling to you and it really resonated with you, please like and subscribe. And I'd like to hear your thoughts. Like, what has been your experience in the job market? What is it that you are seeing happening? Is it also the case in your specific industry that it's actually in your best interest to be jumping regularly from one organization to the next? Or are you seeing organizations within your industry that are making the effort to become compelling workplaces for their people? I'd like to really hear from you guys and see what you guys think about this question of why is it that it's within your best interest to move organizations as opposed to staying with the company that you're with, even if you're happy.